Hi, welcome to Fiberchats. My name is Irina. I'm the host here, and I have a very special surprise guest today. I'll try, and most likely I'll butcher her last name, but I'll try. It's Linda Bjork Eiriksdottir. No, now you say.
Very good. Very good.
Okay, perfect. So Linda is a test coordinator for Stephen West for Westknits, and she very kindly agreed to give us a little glimpse into the background of how the mystery knit along come together. So my first question, obviously, is how did you two meet?
I had been a fan of Stephen's work for quite a while, and I had participated in a few of his mystery knit-alongs. I think Exploration Station was my first one. And then when he was working on the Moral Magic mystery knit-along, he was here in Iceland doing it. And I suddenly got a message on Instagram from him asking me if I wanted to have coffee and knit with him. And I was so surprised. I thought it was like a fake account trying to contact me. I was like, what's happening? I don't know. But it was him. And yeah, we met and we hung out for a while and we just clicked and became friends. And we worked on the Moral Magic mystery knit along together, or he was like designing it while I was knitting it right next to him, basically.
Right.
And he gave me a bunch of yarn and I played with color and he taught me a lot of things. And yeah, that's basically how we got to know each other. We just had coffee and knitted.
Well, he's very easy to like sort of become friends with. He's hard
Yeah.
to love, so I can see
Yeah.
how that happens.
Yeah.
Tell me like the role of the test coordinator and how did it evolve over the years? Because you started working with him like 2016 or so, right? So how did it evolve from that point to what it is now?
Well, first I just started testing patterns for him. He was designing and he sent me a bunch of yarn and he was like, do you want to play with these scraps and do your thing? And because I always say that my knitting superpower is working with scraps of yarn. I love mixing and blending and playing with textures and different kinds of color and bases. And he had a few projects like that after the Moral Magic. And I just started testing patterns. Then it evolved to me calling my group of friends here in Iceland, because Iceland is like knitting is super big here. And we made a bunch of samples for both the shop in Amsterdam, Stephen and Penelope, and we also did a bunch of samples for Edinburgh Yarn Festival. And then they invited me to come and work at their booth there. And somehow I just became the manager of like all the test knits that goes through Stephen.
Well, let's talk about more specifically about the mystery knit along and preparation for the mystery knit along, because it's the whole production. It's not like something that Stephen wakes up in the morning and decides, oh, I'm just gonna put this shawl together. It takes months and months and a lot of people to put it together. It's like the biggest event of the year for Westknits. How far in advance do you get involved with the test knit, like picking test knitters, deciding who is going to participate in this year's test along?
Because we have like a large group of test knitters, but since it's the mystery knit along and we don't want any spoilers, we don't want anything to leak out. It's not about not trusting people. It's just it needs to be like really, really small, just a few people that we basically know and know how they work and that understand how Stephen writes. And with the mystery knit along, it's often he usually gives it to us when it's just a little bit late. Maybe he has 2 sections done, and then you just have to wait and see. It's also a mystery for us because we usually don't know what it's going to end up like when we start knitting it. So it's usually only like 4 or 5 people that are knitting it, and we keep a pretty close group. We have like an Instagram chat and a small Facebook group, which is closed and sealed and super secret, that we can like chat and post photos like, oh, I ran into, like, there's a stitch count issue here, or this technique is not working for me, can we look into it better? And we try to make it as accessible and as easy for everybody that wants to, because a lot of people are never have done any Westknits pattern, and the mystery knit along is kind of like their gateway into his world.
Right. Well, I noticed, like, I mean, I haven't done all of the mystery knit alongs. I've done a few, like, as you can see, like that's one of them. I love those colors. Beautiful.
Yep.
But when he writes the mystery knit along, lots of times there is an alternative. So let's say there is a brioche section, he would usually offer a non-brioche version of it. Do you think like this evolved because of the test knitters? Like, was that suggestion from the test knitters to have like both versions, or was it his idea, do you think?
It was his idea, because a lot of people struggle with brioche or are kind of scared of it. And it's not for everybody. Some people just don't like doing brioche. So that was all him, like making it as accessible to everybody as possible. And if people struggle with brioche, they have a different option.
Well, I saw your chat with Stephen, and one of the questions was, is there any technique that you absolutely hate? Actually, he asked you that, like if there is anything that you absolutely hate in his designs, and you mentioned the cross stitch there.
Yep.
Is that ever a conversation like during the testing of like what's people gonna love and what's people not gonna love?
Sometimes. And like we have that kind of a relationship that I can tell him like, oh, I absolutely just hate this. Please don't do it again, you know? And he's like, fine. But, you know, he has used it again, but I'm not going to do it again. Because I really didn't like doing that stitch. But I think it's beautiful. I think it's absolutely beautiful, but working it was not fun for me. I didn't enjoy it. But I think that's like the only design issue that I've had ever with any of his designs, that I've been like, this is not for me.
Are you ever surprised at like colors that testers pick for a project that like different from your aesthetically?
I get really inspired seeing, because like this is kind of my color aesthetic. A lot of people are not there. A lot of people are more colorful, more playful. I get really inspired seeing what people pick to work with, because one of the things that motivates me the most with knitting is color. So I get really inspired, but I've never been like, oh, this is disgusting, you know. No, it doesn't happen.
No, I meant in a more positive way, that like some ideas you wouldn't think yourself, but like when you see other people make it, it's some
absolutely. Like... I've incorporated a bit of neon in my life. I've never been much of a neon person, but I really like the color play between like earthy tones and neon pops here and there. I don't like full on neon. Right. My wife would love it, but I'm more on the safe side. But when I was working on my own design, MKAL, I decided to go for like a really safe yellow brick road, which is absolutely one of the best yellows out there, in my opinion. And I matched it with fluoromorganite, which is like a super, super peachy pink. And I love that kind of combination. And that definitely came from Amy Palco. And I think it's called Neon Flamingo or Pink Flamingo or something. And I just fell in love with that combination.
Right.
So yeah, I get a lot of inspiration from the test knitters, because I don't have time to test everything that comes out of Stephen. It's just too much. So I get to see all the different combinations before the design is released. And I'm always like, oh, I'm going to make one of these and one of these. I'm going to mix these two together and just, yeah.
Is it difficult for you to decide like which testers you're gonna pick for which project? Because some projects are like, it's a small group of testers, some projects you, like you mentioned somewhere that you take like up to 25 people to test for like garments. Is it hard to, because like the pool of testers Stephen told me is about 90 people, like is it hard to pick out of those? I'm sure like most of them are willing and dying to try every single one of those knits.
We have a policy of I put the test call out there and they get like a sneak preview. I tell them the yarn weight and an estimate of the yarn requirements and stuff, and they get to pick what they knit. I don't pick who gets to knit. They just pick their projects. The only thing that I try to control is like if I know there's if we're working on like a collection or a book or something, and if I know there's a lot of deadlines around the same time and they've picked like 5 of them and they want to add a 6th, I'm like, are you sure you have enough time? I know you have a life as well. So I try to just like make sure that they don't get overwhelmed with deadlines and, you know, keeping track of everything. But they pick what they want to do, what colors they want to use, how they want to incorporate the design. So,
well, for as far as those deadlines, how tight and how strict are those deadlines? Like especially for the mystery knit along, because like Stephen mentioned that he starts sometime in June, July, like seriously working on the mystery knit along to be published in October. How strict are those deadlines?
the test knitters need to be like, let's say that section 1 is like now, section 1 is going to be, or the first clue is going to be released on October 6th. Then you need to be at least done with section 2. You know, you need to be a little bit ahead. Also, because there's a Ravelry group and there's a lot of support involved, we try to, I try to be really active in the Ravelry group and give support. And I like to have really detailed yardage notes for people that want to use scraps in their stash and stuff for every section and every color. So I try to be done. I try to be completely done before the first release of the first clue. That usually works out fine. And yeah, we need them to be ahead of time. 2 of them are almost done. I'm not almost done because I've been super busy with other things as well, but you know.
Well, what in your eyes makes an ideal test knitter?
I just think you have to enjoy it, basically. I don't think there are, I mean, anyone can test. You just need to have a little bit of attention to details, and like if there's a typo or different stitch counts or something like that, we're not really strict about you have to have this skill and you have to do all the brios and all that bull. It's not that kind of thing. You know how Stephen designs and how he's very playful with everything. We try to encourage our test knitters to play with the design. If they want to change something up, they can. It's fine. We just need your yard amounts. We need your finished measurements. We just need certain things for us to like calculate how much yardage you need for every size, etc. But yeah, you don't have to be an expert knitter to be able to be able to test knit. Not at all.
I actually noticed that when Amy from La Bien Amie, she had this live with you guys and Nancy Marchand and Stephen. But like some of the testers were basically new to knitting, and
yeah.
And I find also like I'm relatively new to knitting as well. And I find like when I test knit, sometimes me not knowing certain technique or certain things makes me a better tester, because like if something is not clear for me, it's probably not going to be clear for other people who are beginners or who are new to knitting. So do you try to achieve that mix of expertise and testers?
Absolutely. It's good to have newbies there as well. And especially, I mean, most of the testers that we've gathered through the years are like Westknit knitters. You know, they know how he writes and how he plans out his patterns. So they usually just like fly through them. We just have to, you know, gather the mistakes or fix things along the way. But usually having a beginner knitter is very helpful, because there might be a technique in there that needs a bit more explanation or could be made simpler than it was originally written. So we try to listen to the testers and like incorporate their ideas. But sometimes, you know, it's different how people write their patterns, and Stephen has a very specific way of writing it.
Right.
So he listens to, but he tries to keep true to his pattern writing, but listens to like, this was hard for me. I didn't really understand how you explained it. But often the patterns that we send out they're basically drafts. And if he has a specific technique, he usually makes a video about them. Yeah. And they're usually not ready before the testing. So that's kind of...
Well, in your opinion, right, and I know that you're good friends with Stephen, like you hang out, you play with the puppies and all that stuff. Is he difficult to work with when it comes to work? Like, is he demanding?
No. Best boss I've ever had. No, he's not difficult to work with. He could get a little bit more organized.
Well, I guess we all could.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, absolutely not. He's very, very, I mean, if I have a problem with anything, I just talk to him about it and we just get it solved, you know.
Well, I mean, Mystery Knit Along is just one project that Stephen does. Between that, he also writes books, he writes myriad of other patterns. Do you find Mystery Knit Along to be particularly stressful just because like so many people are waiting for it and so many people expecting this perfection and pattern writing? Like, does that put more pressure on you?
It doesn't put more pressure on me, but I'm definitely more busy during this time of year. Like today there was like the Reykjavik City Yarn Crawl Day, and I went to a few stores and a lot of people came to me and like, ooh, can you help me pick out yarns for the Mystery Knit Along? And I did that, of course, because I like doing that for people. And for the past 2 or 3 years, I've been telling people on Instagram and Ravelry, like, if you want opinions or like if you need any help picking your yarns or your colors or something, you can absolutely send me a message, you know. So my phone is like ding, 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 ding.
When it comes to yarn picking for this specific knit along, do you have any tips on like what people should look for?
The 2 things that I always recommend. Okay, I have 3 things. The safest 2 options is go with your favorite colors. Everybody has 3 favorite colors. And if they are your favorite, they will work together. You know, that's just how it is.
Right.
Also look at like your wardrobe and like what's the color of your winter coat? You know, what are you gonna wear your shawl with? Does it go with that? That's really safe. The second is like if you like a lot of speckles, I would use that as the pop color, the accent color. Yes, main color, contrast color, and accent color this year. The accent color is the one skein. Right. That should be your highly speckled one. The other 2 I would keep. They don't have to be a single color, but like really not highly speckled. They can be a little bit speckled, but not highly speckled. And the third is, if you want to be adventurous and go out of your box, there's no time like the Mystery Knit Along to do so.
Right. Actually, can I show you my colors that I'm thinking?
Yeah, I would love to see them.
So I'm thinking of this. So I'm thinking of the hot pink as the pop color, and then this one with a little bit of speckle.
Yeah.
And the gray. So this is like what I'm gravitating towards. And this is not the typical colors that I choose because people call me Smurfette because of my love for blue. I'm trying to step a little bit outside of my comfort zone. I'm thinking of these colors, but I might change my mind before the Mystery Knit Along starts.
Yeah, but
that's one of the problems of not buying the kit, because if you buy the kit, you committed. So like you already ordered it and this is it. If you didn't buy a kit and you're shopping from your stash, then until October 6th, everything goes. And even after October 6th, you still can change your mind.
Yep. But then you see something in the Ravelry group and you see some spoilers and you're like, oh, I like this better. I'm going to rip it out and start over with different colors.
Well, in comparison to previous years, how excited are you about this specific knit along?
I'm always excited. Like this is Christmas for me. This is absolutely my favorite time of year, and it was even before I started working for Steven. Like I waited for Mystery Knit Along. It was my favorite time of year. I loved it.
How do you find time to knit other things? Because you design now your own stuff and you need other people's patterns. Like, how do you find time for all of that?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I work full time as a financial specialist for an IT company here in Iceland, which is really busy, and you know, I have a lot of stuff to do. Me and my wife have 4 kids between us, 3 cats and 1 dog, and then I work for Steven. And yeah, I don't know. I'm always knitting. Like if I'm making dinner and it needs to boil, I'm like knitting socks or whatever, like something that I can just pick up easily. I don't know. I always have my knitting with me, always.
Well, if you like picking a project, like what usually attracts you to a project?
That's a really hard question. Usually it's how I see it. If I make it with like my choice of colors, because I usually always change a little bit about designs. It doesn't have to be much, but like I incorporate something different into them. Sometimes a design pops up and I'm like, I can just see it in the colors that I would do it. It's usually always how I incorporate the color into the design.
Well, a lot of people asking like, but how would you, because Steven's shawls are like, they usually have this unique shaping to them, and people are concerned with like, but how would you wear it? Do you wear all the things that you need?
Yeah. Yeah. And I go through my shawls like every 2 years, because some of them I use more, some of them I don't use as much. And if I've fallen out of love with something, or it's just been like in a drawer somewhere and I haven't used it for quite a while, I usually just pass it on to my girlfriends or my mom or somebody, you know.
Is there a favorite like that you will never part with?
Yeah. It's the Malt Magic shawl to match this sweater. This is the Malt Magic sweater, and I made the shawl to match.
I love that. It's beautiful. I love
So,
the colors.
Yeah.
You know what I like about Malt Magic? That there is like no 2 sweaters or shawls that I like, because nobody has the same yarn in their stash. Like everybody is using something, some different scraps and some different colors, and they all look so different.
Yeah. I love, like, my 2 favorite Westknit designs is the Malt Magic, both the shawl and the sweater, and then Vertices Unite. I love Vertices Unite. I think it's such a perfect, it's so good for beginners, and I usually call it my gateway pattern into Steven's world. But I just love that shawl. I knit it again and again and again. I think I've made 5, and I'm working on one for myself because I've given the rest of them away. And I just, for me, that's the perfect pattern, and you can play around so much with it.
What colors did you choose for your mystery knit along this year?
Woohoo! I picked the kit from La BNMA called Peritoki. It's the main color for me is a dark gray with like rust speckles. The contrasting color is a light gray with rust speckles, and then there's a rust accent color.
Oh, that sounds very dramatic.
It's very pretty. I'm very happy with it.
I'm so happy that you join Martin and I on this journey, and I hope that you're gonna join a couple of our lives and participate in it, and maybe like give us a little inside info as we go along. I don't want
no spoilers.
No, I don't want any spoilers. No, like we respect the mystery of the mystery knit along, but
Yeah.
you can guide us through when we get to the first clue.
I have one question for you though.
Absolutely.
What are you expecting from the mystery knit along this year?
I'm hoping it's going to teach me some patience because, and I talked to Steven about it and I talked to Martin about it. The mystery part is what driving me absolutely mad because I'm the type of knitter, I'm obsessive knitter. Like if I start knitting, I want to finish it like within a week. So the fact that I have to wait until the next clue published is actually like not budding well with me. And it's perfect for Martin because Martin has 14 weeps and another 2 that he just casted on the other day. So like I'm not even counting, right? Meanwhile, I'm usually like a one project girl. I usually start one thing and I'm like, until I'm done with it, I'm like that French bulldog that doesn't let go, you know? So for me, it's going to be the hard part is going to be to pace myself. But I'm also hoping that with Martin having to deal with all of these things, it's going to turn into this friendly competition. I'm very excited about it. This is the first time I'm gonna do a proper mystery knit along because when I did the Starflake, I actually waited until the end of the last clue was published, and then I knitted it within that 1 week. I knitted all 4 clues. So
wow.
yeah, I'm actually gonna pace myself and do it the proper way. So I'll let you know how that works. I don't know.
Do you think it's gonna be brioche this year?
Well, so we talked about it with Martin and I were discussing because it's twists and turns, right? And then Steven hinted at the cable needle. So Martin immediately thought of cables. I was thinking of German short rows. And then since we both, well, Martin doesn't necessarily love brioche, but he knows how to do brioche. I actually love brioche. Like it's one of my favorite techniques. So I'm hoping for some brioche in there. But I'm like very curious as far as the construction of the shawl. And I'll tell you what I love about Steven's designs. Personally, I feel like he always teaches me something new. Like every pattern, there is one thing, either how the finishes, either how like some new technique or some new way of thinking about construction. Like there's always some little information, educational piece in every pattern of his. So I always come out of this pattern thinking like, oh, I learned something new. And I love that. They're not very difficult.
No.
So people who don't have a lot of experience can still knit them. But I feel like I became a better knitter with Steven because every shawl I knitted of his taught me something new that I haven't known before and haven't tried before. And then he's, he's so infectious with his use of colors and he's just do it, just play with it, just, don't stress. That I feel like it gives us this freedom of becoming like an artist, really. It's like when we're saying we are fiber artists, this is what it means, that choose your colors, you choose how you're gonna, which colors, even if you buy a kit, it's your decision which color is gonna be number 1, which color is gonna be number 2, and which one is gonna be the pop, so you still have this like artistic freedom to personalize the show. And when you go on to his Ravelry page and you look through the projects, this is what like really strikes me, that no 2 projects look alike. They're all so different,
Yeah. I usually say like when we were doing the Marled Magic shawl and then the sweater, it opened up so much in my channels in my brain that I didn't even know existed with knitting. And I tried to incorporate that feeling, like this sense of, I experienced like a sense of freedom with my knitting. And he was right there next to me and he was like, just do it. Just, add more color, do this, do that. And he was so encouraging. And I just felt this, I don't know, I felt like I could do anything.
I love that about Steven, and a lot of people that I interviewed on my channel, when they know him, when they're friends with him, like that's what they mentioned, that he always encourages you to give it a go, and
Yeah.
know that you mentioned that he encouraged you to try your own design and he sort of pushed you into that direction.
Yeah.
Your designs are very different from his designs. Like you embrace the Icelandic, like the traditional fiber arts, like you can see it in your designs. But I was one of the first people I interviewed was Julie Knits in Paris. And I asked her, so Julie, how did you become a designer? And she said, well, I was interpreting for Steven in Paris in one of the yarn festivals. And he was like, Julie, you're such an awesome knitter. Why won't you design? And she said, no, like me, no, I don't know how. And she's like, and then the next week I went and I designed my first shawl and Steven modeled it for me. So it's like, he has this personality of helping other fiber artists.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He's very, very, very helpful with just everything. I mean, not just like, now I've known him for such a long time and we're such close friends. I mean, we talk about everything and he's always very encouraging, very positive, and just very loving. He's just a very loving person. So, yeah.
Well, I hope we're gonna get together, you, Martin, me, and Steven, at some point of this knit along, and we'll chat about our progress and how if he met his expectations for this knit along, and
you should know how his expectations are.
He's very hard on himself. He has very high demands for himself. So I know.
I'm always like, we're going for a record, da, 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 da. And he's like, no, it's gonna be quiet this year. And I'm like, no.
If Martin and I can help it, it's not gonna be quiet this year. We're gonna make as much noise as we can with this knit along, and I hope you guys join us into this knit along.
So, yes, we will.
Thank you so very much for being my guest today. I really appreciate giving us some insight into how the whole test knitting for the Mystery Knit Along works.
You're welcome. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you.